Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Crash, and today I'm taking a look at the current roster of Jump and making some predictions about the future of the magazine. Here to discuss it with me and give another point of view is Dolphin Man itself, Axelablaze. Axel, you want to say something?
Yes, hello. Build King is dead. Hurrah.
Yeah. So
That's it. That's the
yeah.
joke.
So this is we're recording this. The last Jump issue out is issue number 18, and the confirmation of Build King being cancelled came out today, I think, or yesterday.
Yeah, it got leaked today with the table of contents.
Yeah, because this video is probably gonna come out after that issue has come out as well.
Yes.
But yeah, what we're gonna do today is to basically look at the roster and see what's gonna be in a couple of years, or predict, I guess. And I kind of wanted to start with the 5 that I think are the established manga of Jump right now, which are One Piece, My Hero Academia, Black Clover, Doctor Stone, and Jujutsu Kaisen. And I'm not sure if you want to include Hunter x Hunter in there or not, but since it's been on hiatus for so long.
Oh man, I know. Cause that's don't get me wrong. Like Hunter x Hunter's still popular. They still announce things. I mean, like one of the big things that they announced, like at the end of last year, was that the voice actors and whatnot were getting together to record for an escape room themed after Hunter x Hunter. So like, it's always going to be in the zeitgeist. But until we have that confirmation that Hunter x Hunter is coming back to the magazine, it's still just kind of dead in the water. I mean, as sad as it is to stay, like, don't get me wrong, like everything up to this point has been great, has been big, but at this point, until we've got more manga that comes out, it's in a state of cryogenesis similar to Tsukasa and Doctor Stone.
And the thing is, we are currently on the biggest hiatus of Hunter x Hunter.
We are. That is correct.
It's been like 2 years, I think.
I think it's been more than 2 years.
More. Because I've been reading Jump weekly for about 2 years now, and I never seen an issue with Hunter x Hunter in it. So
yeah, it's been quite some time.
Yeah. So I don't know about the others. What do you think? When do you think they're gonna end? Because One Piece, Oda has said it's gonna end in 5 years, but we have to take note that Oda said that like 2 years ago, and One Piece is not gonna end in 3 years.
At the end of the day, there are so many authors that really underestimate, like how much content they're still gonna make. Because it's not just Oda either. Like Kishimoto for Naruto was the same way. He thought like Naruto was gonna go on for like 15 volumes, I think, and obviously that was a very large underestimation there. So I mean, I think it can be said that like the authors have a pretty good sense of more or less when their series are gonna end. In the case of One Piece, like I can agree that it could end within 5 years, and that's just because yes, 5 years from now, if not less, and that's just because like once Wano ends, like to my knowledge, and again based on One Piece and whatnot, I think they will have all 4 poneglyphs that they needed, all 4 of the road poneglyphs, in order to get to the next location. So I think we will be entering that final arc after Wano.
They'll have 3. They're still
okay,
missing
so
one.
they'll have one more. But with that being said, like we are approaching the end game. Now, that being said, however long this final arc is going to be, you never know. There are a lot of loose plot threads that still need to be resolved. but we'll definitely get there. But I definitely think that yes, it could definitely end within the next 5 years. I guess do you agree on that matter that it like 5 is a good estimation, or do you honestly think it's going to go longer than that?
I I think it's gonna end this decade because, like you said, we're reaching the end. I can see us having at least like 2, 3 arcs more, and I don't think any of them are gonna be as big as Wano. So yeah, if we're counting 5 years from now, yes, I can see that happening. But 5 years from 2019, no, not gonna happen. I don't think
Yeah,
so. I mean,
I don't think we're gonna be closing One Piece within 3 years. Um, which I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like, well, you also have to factor in the fact that like One Piece goes on break after every 3 to 5 chapters. Um, so like, you're automatically just cutting down like 5 to 8 chapters in a given year compared to everybody else. So
at least.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, do you want me to move on to another one of them?
Maybe.
Okay.
I was gonna talk about My Hero Academia because so this week we didn't have a chapter, but last week's chapter was titled Final Phase Begins, I think. So,
It wasn't with the previous chapter. I want to say it was at the tail end of the chapter before that. But I mean, I'm arguing semantics here. The fact of the matter is, like, it's arguing, or it's more or less stating that we are in the final phase, like you mentioned.
yeah. So how long do you? Because a lot of people are saying that this is the end of phase of part 1, basically, and they're gonna have like just a My Hero sequel that is not Academia because I don't want to get into big spoilers, but basically that's a theory. And do you agree with that theory, or do you think it's ending? We're reaching the last arc.
So I do think that we are. So I mean, I think we're approaching the last like big story arc, or at least not necessarily story arc, but saga. Yeah, there we go. That's the word I'm looking for, because a saga is multiple arcs. I definitely think that we are approaching that last saga, just based off of the events of the previous manga arc. Like, the way that set things up at the very end, it was just one of those things where it's just like, all right, well, like, how much longer can you actually drag this out, considering what you've given us? Like, and that was my thought process up to this point, was always like, all right, we're either going to get, a very dramatic turn, or we're getting a time skip after that last arc. That was always my thought process, because just given how things were, like, where would you even go after this arc ends? If that makes any sense. Like, I didn't feel like there was more that could happen, unless there, like you mentioned, if there is a sequel, which, I mean, it's definitely possible, but at the same time, do we need that? Because I pose the same argument that I posed with Boruto. Like, Boruto does not make Naruto as a collective better. If anything, Boruto just kind of cheapens the experience of Naruto to an extent. And I, not saying that would happen with My Hero if they made like a part 2, but I don't think it needs one after the series were to end.
I think the thing is, if the part 1 was to end, say, now, then a part 2 will just be kind of like Shippuden was to Naruto, I guess. But yeah, I don't think where we are right now in the story that we need a time skip. I think a final arc that probably will be decently big, like at least a year or 2 long. But a final arc could close everything pretty nicely, I think.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that was my thing. Like, I thought that it was either going to have a dramatic turn or it was going to have a time skip. Not necessarily both. So like we're doing the dramatic turn side of things rather than a time skip. But yeah, because in all honesty, like again, just based on how things were progressing with the story, it didn't exactly feel like they were ever going to get to that second year at UA. Like not with how fast this plot was going. That was not going to be a thing there. So
I never even thought about that, like having the 3 years in the UA. Makes sense, but I just wasn't something I ever thought about in terms of the plot. I don't think it's needed.
The only reason why it even became like a thought to me in the first place was just because of the 1A 1B exhibition matches arc that is about to happen with the anime. Like, and how like one character in particular, their story was going to be affected once they hit their second year. So that was kind of one of those things where it's just like, but we're not really gonna get there, are we? Like, so I do think that My Hero Academia, whether or not it gets a part 2, I do think that the current My Hero Academia that we are seeing is going to end within 2 to 3 years. And that also just makes sense given how long My Hero Academia has been running. Because to my knowledge, it's been running since 2014. So, like, it's been going for 7 years.
Yeah.
So, like, that is a very good lifespan for a popular manga. And
It's the second oldest in the magazine, if we don't count Hunter x Hunter.
Correct. It is currently the second oldest in the magazine. But people got to realize that we are past the days of the series like One Piece, where a series seemingly continues on forever and ever until the magazine tells them, all right, you can end it. Like, we are past those days. And like a lot of authors are being given that opportunity to end things how they want to end things. Well, unless they're axed, in which case it's just like, well, yeah. Sorry, your time's over. But for any of the ones that actually get a foothold, for the ones that do get to continue for X amount of time, they're given that opportunity to end things how they want to end things, and that is, in my opinion, what we are getting with My Hero Academia. I don't think this is one of those things where it's just being like, hey, Horikoshi, we want you to end My Hero Academia. No, it is not the case. This is definitely Horikoshi ending things on his own terms, and at least trying to go out on a high note, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And talking about like other manga or mangaka that said they want to go out at their peak. Jujutsu Kaisen also, Gege said that plans to end in 3 years. And I'm reading Jujutsu Kaisen, but I'm not reading it.
I know your stance on Jujutsu Kaisen, yes.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if it can end in 3 years or not. What's your opinion on that?
I think it totally could. And so the reason for that is again based on pacing. The fact that the amount of fingers that Yuji has been consuming, whether consciously or forcibly, that progression has been going very fast. So like, in terms of our protagonist being overcome by Sukuna, that is definitely a possibility. And I mean, once that happens, like, the question becomes like, all right, well, how much farther past that can we actually go? Like, this isn't a case similar to like Yu Yu Hakusho, where, you know, as soon as Yusuke becomes a demon, you know, there's a whole, like, there's more things that he can do, and he did, but like at the same time, like, it was pretty much just chosen to like, we're ending Yu Yu Hakusho so we can get on to new things. But like, I digress. Once Yuji gets taken over by Sukuna, he's gonna be taken over by Sukuna. There's not like, as sad as this is to say, Yuji is not gonna have like a happy ending. That is not, in my opinion, how Jujutsu Kaisen is going to end. Other people might have a happy ending, but that's not going to be the case for Yuji. I just don't see that. But I think the thing is, a lot of fans are in denial about the possibility of it ending within 3 years, only because they don't want it to end in 3 years. Compared to other series like Black Clover or My Hero Academia, which have been running for, 3 or so more years than Jujutsu Kaisen. It's still considered a younger series, so people don't want it to be over. But
a lot of the fans of Jujutsu Kaisen just got into it because of the anime.
Correct.
So it's just a brand new thing that a lot of people just found this year or last year, I guess.
Yeah, we are at a very different place compared to what happened with Kimetsu no Yaiba, Demon Slayer. Because based on the conversation that we were having in the server this morning, like the fact of the matter is, when Demon Slayer's anime came out, when it first started airing was when volume 15 was already out for Kimetsu no Yaiba. It was already past that halfway point towards ending.
It was already in the final arc when the anime started.
Yep. So, that's the thing. Like, in comparison with Jujutsu Kaisen, we are more... I think people didn't want to think of, oh no, this is already halfway or more than halfway over. But that's the thing. Like, I am confident that this can end very well. Not necessarily, positively, but, end very well within 3 years. If not, 4 or 5. But I do think it is fair to say that, yes, we are, halfway through Jujutsu Kaisen. I think that is a fair statement to make.
Yeah, I can see that. Then, just to talk about the other two. Dr. Stone, I have no idea when it's going to end. Just based on the last chapters, I have no idea where Inagaki and Boichi want to go with it. We could be halfway point. It could be reaching the final arc. I have no idea.
I want to say with Dr. Stone, I'm guessing that we're 2/3 over, in all honesty. I think we are reaching that final third, but I could be wrong. Either way, we are halfway over with Dr. Stone for sure.
Halfway.
Just based on where they are technologically in the current part of the manga. Now, that being said, they threw us one hell of a curveball in the last few chapters of the manga. One that I was not expecting whatsoever.
Me either.
Like, that was one hell of a twist.
Dr. Stone is the chapter that I'm more excited about for next week. Because I just want to know what's going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There are so many questions about what's going to happen in that next chapter. And then the chapter that follows that. But I could definitely see, once that chapter is over, or the next chapter, getting a similar message to what we saw in My Hero Academia, saying that we are in the final phase, or whatever, of Dr. Stone. I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I think... Because in terms of actual story, there's not that much more to do from where we are right now. So yeah, I think having one last arc from there on out makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. The anime, the most recent season was very well received. Um, I just don't know where it ranked compared to other anime, because I mean, obviously both winter and spring of this year anime has been packed, and all eyes for the most part were on Jujutsu Kaisen, Attack on Titan, and I would say to an extent ReZero as well, were three of like the big ones from winter. So like Doctor Stone was there, but I don't know where it ranked compared to everybody else. That being said, the manga at this point is starting to outsell, or current volumes of Doctor Stone are starting to outsell Black Clover. So, and not saying that either of them are doing bad, because like they're still pulling in very good numbers for series that have been going on as long as they have. There are a lot of series that don't even hit those same numbers, so like that is good. And for the people that are like, Black Clover, its sales are so low compared to everybody else, and it's just like, yeah, sure, but like still selling that many copies over the lifespan is good. But a lot of people don't recognize that with Black Clover, the anime was very well received despite people's perceptions of it. It brought in a lot of money for TV Tokyo.
Just talk a little bit about anime, but of Doctor Stone. I feel like the first season was a bit. It came out at a bad time because it came out in the same season that Kimetsu no Yaiba came out, and I think I'm saying this from the point of view of a manga fan and being in the Jump community. A lot of people were expecting Doctor Stone to be the big manga, to be the big anime of that season, and Kimetsu no Yaiba just kind of blow it all over the water.
Yeah. Which I mean, I guess to me, it was kind of expected that Kimetsu no Yaiba was going to beat Doctor Stone, and that's just because, as sucky as it is to say, there are a lot of people that prefer just seeing flashy battles than they do more unique spins on the shonen category. Like, not saying that there aren't interesting fights in Doctor Stone, but fighting isn't necessarily the focus in Doctor Stone. And it was, again, more focused on science and technology. Like, oh, what are we going to invent in this episode or chapter? What are we going to invent in the next episode or chapter? And in the very beginning of Doctor Stone is still when we're doing more rudimentary things compared to season 2, where they built a freaking car.
Yeah, it just amps up as you go on.
Right, and it only gets crazier from there. But like, that's the thing, is that like, yes, like Doctor Stone, season 1 was still good, but when you compare it to what happened with Demon Slayer and Ufotable, especially in the second half of the season where things really picked up a lot harder than it did for Doctor Stone. So I mean, that's just kind of the thing. And again, like even now, like with Doctor Stone, it came out at a disadvantage because it came out at the same time that Jujutsu Kaisen was. And Jujutsu Kaisen was just being championed at this point, given how well it did in the first half. And a lot of people were very excited for the Promised Neverland as well, but then Promised Neverland Season 2 happened, and then we were all sad.
Yeah, I think everyone was sad.
Oh, yeah.
And so the last one of the ones that I think are the established ones, Black Clover. Black Clover is another one that I have no idea when it's going to end, because it feels to me like the most rooted in the like the big 3 era of manga, where it can just go for 900 chapters and it would still make sense to go that long.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's something that like Tabata has even said. Like I don't think he has any intention of necessarily ending it anytime soon if he doesn't have to, because the series definitely could keep going on past the Spade arc that is currently going on, because there is more to explore with the world of Black Clover and the different races and whatnot. It is very possible, but will it? Because that's the thing, is that like once, I mean, a lot of stuff has happened in the Spade arc. There's been a lot of character growth. We've already had one time skip in the manga, a 6-month time skip. So like, how much more can you really do after the Spade arc? So I mean, that's the thing. Like, in my opinion, it would make more sense for them to end it after the Spade arc, to try and end it at a high, but it could go further past it. And Jump might choose to do that only because you have all these other series that are ending in 3, 4, or 5 years. You still need staple series in the magazine for people to read. So that could become that could be the fate of Black Clover. That like they keep it going because the other series are ending.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, especially because we're at the time where, again, we have 5 established manga, and that may sound like a lot, but for Shonen Jump, it isn't at all. They generally have like 10 manga that are well known. So they're definitely at a bad spot right now, and having Black Clover last, especially since, again, yeah, My Hero is ending, Jujutsu Kaisen may end in a couple of years, Dr. Stone may end in a couple of years, One Piece, we don't know, but having Black Clover be that staple of the magazine for a couple of years more probably will do them better in terms of sales. Not sure if it'll do good for the quality of the manga, but well, I mean, doesn't really care about the quality of the manga if it's selling.
We do have to consider what we already have for like the other series and what they will be in 3 years. But that being said, that's also what we'll be discussing more of soon. So, like, by that point, I am very confident that Jump will have other very well-known titles, but they'll still want to have, you know, at least one veteran that's been around for longer, just to have that kind of staple.
Yeah, I think so. So you want to jump to the rookies, so to speak?
Yeah, well,
all of them aren't rookies anymore, but
well, I would say the least rookie, at least, of them all is
Yozakura.
Yeah, Mission Yozakura family. But even that being said, like, that series is only like a year and a half old, which just goes to show that the sheer disparity between the quote unquote veterans in the manga or in the magazine compared to the rest of the magazine.
Yeah, it's the first time I think that there's been so many brand new manga in the magazine, at least since, you know, the magazine started.
Yeah, the fact that you have 75% of the magazine being taken up by series that are a year and a half or younger, it's absolutely crazy.
With most of them being less than a year old. We only have 3 series that are more than a year old.
Yep, and those are Mission Yozakura family, Undead Unluck, and Mashal. And Undead and Unluck and Mashal just celebrated their 1-year anniversaries last month, I want to say.
In January. I'm looking at, I actually have the dates in front of me.
Gotcha.
But yeah, January of this year.
Right,
so
right.
It's
Yep, it was January.
Long ago.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the thing, is that like we are at a point where we have so many fresh blood series, which is not normal for Jump, and that's also part of the reason why we've had so many new series actually stay in the magazine longer and not getting axed right away. Because that has always been a thing where it's just like when the magazine is dominated by veteran series, there's not room to like keep new ones. So you would just have this infinitely repeating cycle of new series being introduced only for them to be canceled 20 chapters in. So
that's the thing, because if we think about like Gravity Boys, which I love Gravity Boys, but it lasted for 50 chapters because of that. Because if it had been released in, say, 2016 or 2017, it probably would have lasted 20.
Same thing with Mitama Security.
Exactly.
And I think that is actually a bigger example of that, because Mitama Security came out the same time that Mission Yozakura Family did, but Mission Yozakura Family stayed. Mitama Security did not.
And I think that helped a lot for Yozakura, because Yozakura didn't really had a foot the first couple of chapters, the first couple of months, I'd say. It was only at like chapter 30, 40 or something that people actually started liking Yozakura Family.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, that's because it had a very similar start to Katekyo Hitman Reborn. But that being said, like they made the smart move to pivot a lot faster than Reborn did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, I do like those early chapters of Yozakura Family.
Same.
And I do like the early chapters of Reborn as well. So, but I think Yozakura Family did it better. But it was a bit directionless. I can't say this word never. Doesn't have any direction. Or didn't have any direction at the first couple of chapters, because it had battle shonen elements, it had comedy elements, it had slice of life elements. It just had a bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people just wanted it to be a battle shonen, and it took a couple of chapters to do that.
Right. But that being said, the art in Mission Yozakura Family is absolutely fantastic.
The double spreads are fantastic. I love them.
Yep, and they've been getting so many color pages lately, but that is also definitely Jump trying to push the Mission Yozakura agenda to get people to buy into it more, which the sales have been increasing.
The current arc is great, in my opinion. I think it's going to be the arc that's going to elevate Yozakura Family a little bit.
Yep. Although at the same time, it is pretty standard. It is very formulaic right now. Like it's very flashy and cool, but like you can't deny that it is also very formulaic right now. But
yeah, for a battle shonen,
it'll be interesting to see where it goes after this, because at least for me, the current villain that we're facing always seemed like the end game. So I'm very curious to see where we're going from here.
I don't think they're gonna defeat him this arc. I think
Probably not.
He's gonna stay a villain for a lot longer. But yeah, with that said, in terms of what I think Yozakura is gonna be for the future, I don't think it's gonna be successful. I think it's gonna have some success. I think it's gonna be, just to keep in topic, I think it's going to be the reborn of this new generation, in which we have other manga that's going to be higher, it's going to be selling, and then we're going to have Yozakura Family, which will have its fans, which will be a solid manga, but it's never going to be the top manga of the magazine.
Right. And even when it gets an anime adaptation, because at this point I'm pretty confident that it will get an anime adaptation. Like, it's not going to be anything that really elevates it super crazy. Like, it doesn't necessarily have those moments that are, like Demon Slayer with Ufotable. It doesn't really have those moments where like the animation can like really elevate it. Like, I'm not saying that the animation can't make certain scenes really cool, because it will, but I don't think it's ever going to have one of those like extremely hype moments that is like so elevated by an anime that like people are like buy 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 buy. I think that it's going to be one of those series that just sits comfortably average with the fans that it has. I think that is definitely the case.
I agree. So yeah, next we have Mashal, and Mashal is, I'd say Mashal is already a hit title, as is right now. Of course, it has space to grow because again, it just celebrated 1 year anniversary. It doesn't have an anime or anything, but it's doing really, really well for a rookie.
Yep. It and Undead Unluck are the two series that Jump has been working very hard to promote.
But Mashal is doing numbers way higher than Undead Unluck.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I saw at least the last volume. It was higher. I wish I had the number here. But I remember being higher.
Gotcha. I'm trying to
And I remember like
look it up
the
myself
second
here.
volume. The second volume sold out because a lot of people liked the character. I think was Lance on the cover. People really like that.
Maybe. Well, either way, at the very least, I know that both of them are doing well. But
Yeah.
Mashal definitely has an easier point of entry than Undead Unluck does. Just because with Mashal, it's, I mean, in simplest terms, it is Harry Potter One Punch Man.
Yeah, you get the entire point of Mashal in the first chapter, which you really don't with Undead Unluck.
Correct. With Undead Unluck, you need to get in a few chapters before things really click into place.
I'd say you need to read at least 2 volumes before things start like getting better.
I mean, I would argue once you get towards the end of the first volume, you're good. But yeah, in the second volume is definitely where it cements itself. But Mashal does not have an identity crisis whatsoever. It knows exactly what it is, and it leans hard into it and does very well for what it does. And again, because it has 2 very relatable elements, again, it's got the world of Harry Potter, essentially, and the world of One Punch Man combined into one thing. Those 2 very relatable things make it really easy for people to enjoy it. Now, like, that being said, you also have the people that are like, oh, well, it's just a One Punch Man clone. Or you have other people who are like, oh, it leans really hard into the gags, and I just want action and whatnot. And I think that's definitely going to be one of those things where it's going to have those people that are picky about it. But I think that it's going to do really well once it does get animated. As long as it does animate it really well. Because, I mean, when it comes to the manga for Mashal, there are a lot of static images and whatnot.
It needs to improve the art style, in my opinion. And I
Right.
have a Mashal avatar in the Discord right now. But I'm going to say that the art style is one of the worst in the magazine right now, which isn't to say that it is a bad art style, but it definitely needs a lot of improvement.
It is very basic at the end of the day. Like, the action scenes are really cool, but the continuous art style that you have through the rest of it is very basic. And again, like, having it be in a magic school does lend itself negatively to it as well, just because you don't have as interesting of character designs, because everyone is, for the most part, wearing a very similar outfit, so all of the creativity and differentiating of people has to be done with their faces and their hair. So I mean, like, that isn't the greatest thing.
I think the thing that he did is the stripes the magic stripes, they kind of also help in the same way that the
Yes.
cracks of Dr. Stone does, except
Yes.
Boichi is a better artist and does it better. But he at least has the idea, I
Yes.
think.
In terms of its success, I do think it's going to be very successful. Um, I don't think it will. I still don't think it's going to hit like Jujutsu Kaisen or like Demon Slayer levels of success, but I do think it's going to rank higher than Mission Yozakura Family. I do think that.
Yeah, I don't think any of the manga that we'll be talking about that is in the magazine right now is gonna reach those numbers. I don't think Jump should expect any of these manga to reach those numbers again. Maybe one, and I'll talk about that when we get there. But I honestly don't think it will. But yeah, I agree with you on Mashal. I think it's gonna do at least better than Yazakura. I think it's gonna do well overall. Maybe be the next Gintama that people want to have in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
And just the thing that I want to say about Mashal, and I read One Punch Man, but I read the first, I think, 30 chapters when they released. So it's been a while ago. But I think what Mashal does differently, because Mashal does get a lot of... it's just a One Punch Man in an Harry Potter world. And to a certain degree, I guess it is. But what I like about Mashal is that the one punches are really cathartic. I think the best moments of Mashal are when we get a guy like overhyping himself, and we get Mashal just come out and just beat him with one punch. And I think One Punch Man doesn't really handle it the same way. I'm not saying it's doing worse or better. I'm saying it's not about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, about Undead Unluck. I think Undead Unluck has... I'm not sure if it's going to be a hit, but I think it has everything to be one.
So, this, in my opinion, is the series that is going to benefit the most from getting an anime, in my opinion. Once Undead Unluck gets an anime, and I am very confident in it getting an anime, I think that it will take off. Because Undead Unluck, like you said, has all of the building blocks to be great. And the manga right now is great. Like, the manga is fantastic. Like, if we can get an anime studio to incorporate all of the details, like the small details that you can only really catch on a second or third reread of a chapter, I think it's going to be fantastic. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Undead Unluck has something that One Piece has that is really good for getting an audience, which is there's a lot of things to theorize each and every chapter, which when the anime comes out and people start like theorizing, and we can get like even YouTube channels that are just dedicated to Undead Unluck, like there is for One Piece or in Jujutsu Kaisen, I think it's gonna start building up a fan base.
Absolutely. And again, one of the other big strengths that Undead Unluck has is its characters. And I mean, they have a character poll going right now. Oh, sorry, not going right now. It just ended. So very eagerly waiting to see who got placed where in the popularity poll. But the characters are such a big strength for Undead Unluck. And I think that like once they are animated, a lot of people are going to fall in love with the characters. So, yeah, I would say that if anything is capable of making it big, other than what we already have that is already making it big, I think that Undead Unluck has the potential to get there. But until then, the manga itself, like we mentioned, those first few chapters are the biggest barrier to entry. Because the mood in the first couple chapters is very different from everything that happens afterwards. Is very different, which is really the biggest unfortunate thing for Undead Unluck, is that you have a lot of people that are just like, well, this is just kind of weird right off the get-go rather than being interesting. So I think that with an anime, again, we'll be able to overcome that barrier of entry. But until that time, like, it's doing well as is, but it's gonna be elevated with an anime.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think it's it's gonna do numbers as high as Jujutsu Kaisen does.
Probably not.
But I think it's gonna blow up the manga sales at least a little bit.
Yes.
And we're gonna get covers and things like that. Moving on, this is my favorite batch of Jump so far. After Undead Unluck, and we start with one of my least favorite manga in the magazine so far. Which is Ayakashi Triangle.
Yeah.
And Ayakashi Triangle is kind of weird because until like a couple of weeks ago, I was ready to tell you that it's going to be a massive hit because the sales of the first volumes, or at least the first volume, were really good. There's rumors of an anime already, which is kind of crazy because the manga is not even a year old.
So you want to know what my logic behind that is for why it's potentially getting one right away?
Because of Yabuki? Or
no, I was gonna say because of Weekly Shonen magazine. They're trying to compete because a lot of the rom-coms and whatnot from Weekly Shonen magazine from the last year are getting animated, either this year or next year. Like, they had already announced the anime, and I think it's happening this year for Girlfriend and Girlfriend, and then they just recently confirmed that A Couple of Cuckoos is getting one for 2022. So it would definitely make sense for Jump to want to try and compete with that, with Ayakashi Triangle, since it's the only established rom-com that they have currently running so far. Yes, it has other ones that are up and coming, but Ayakashi Triangle is the only one that actually has enough content so far to at least make a 12-episode anime by the time that the anime would come out.
Okay, yeah, that does make sense. What I was gonna say, though, is that it does seem from the table of contents that it's not doing as well recently, which is kind of weird. So I have no idea, but I still think it's overall is going to be a success. And if they do go with the anime, then it's probably going to do well enough.
I think it'll do all right. I mean, at the end of the day, it is another very ichi heavy series, so that can work in its favor or work against it, which is, I think that's potentially why it dropped, is that you might have people that are more interested in Witch Watch lately because it is more traditional rom-com in comparison, which I'm trying to look here. Yeah, so not that this necessarily counts, but in this upcoming issue, Witch Watch has a color page, and Ayakashi Triangle is fourth from the bottom. So I think there are a lot of people that are like, oh, like, we like Witch Watch because it's more wholesome rom-com compared to Ayakashi Triangle, where it's just like, all right, the girls are consistently naked or showing their butts. And obviously, yeah, some people like that, but at the same time, they're high schoolers.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say that I like ecchi manga, and I've always liked since I was a teen. So a lot of my favorite manga are shonen rom-com ecchi RMs, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, I do prefer Witch Watch.
Yeah,
I do find it not even it is more wholesome, but not even just that. I feel like it's funnier. I like the characters way more, and I just think it's overall better, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not my opinion that counts.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. So I mean, that being said, though, like, I think that yes, it is going to get an anime. Yes, it's going to do all right. It's not going to do anything crazy. This isn't going to be like all of a sudden like the best rom-com anime or whatnot that comes out.
Do you think it's gonna be better in sales against Yabuki's other manga, To Love Ru?
Eh,
Because To Love Ru was a major success for the time. I haven't read it yet, but I remember it was big, and it still be referenced in like manga nowadays, like in Roboco, and I think Witch Watch also mentioned To Love Ru recently as well.
it's possible that it might surpass it. I don't necessarily think that it will, only because Gender Bender is another, kind of entryway blocker. Or so, because again, that's kind of the thing. It's just like, like all this stuff is ichi, but then you remember, this is a guy in a girl's body right now. So, who knows? Mm-hmm.
And after Ayakashi Triangle, I think we have one that's really sad for both of us, which is Airball Cop and Dolphin. And, I'm a Tamura fan, and I've been since I read Beelzebub 10 years ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Orpheus is your avatar. So this is a manga that I think we both like. And
Yes.
it's not gonna last, I think.
No. So, I mean, from what I'm reading, based on certain notes from Shonen Jump that I've seen on Twitter, it looked like what happened was that Tamura got a different editor. And, like, said editor then also said that, Hard Boiled Cop and Dolphin Volumes 1 and 2 were getting reprinted in Japan. I think, unfortunately for Tamura, that editor change came way too late. And while the recent content in Hard Boiled Cop and Dolphin has been great, it's definitely showing that, like, while it's not going to get canceled in this round of axing, it looks like it's just going to be Phantom Seer and Build King. It's definitely setting itself up to be canceled within the next 10 chapters, when the next round of new stuff comes out. And I'm very confident that it will, just because a lot of endgame things have been presented. So I've loved Cop and Dolphin. I think that the Tamura fans who wanted a return to form for Tamura got it with Hard Boiled Cop and Dolphin, but there weren't enough people that were interested, just because having, as sad as this is to say, having a dolphin character was weird to them. A lot more often than not, having a more humanoid main character is beneficial because it's more relatable. It's very hard to have a series that is popular based off of something that is not humanoid. Not saying that things can't be that popular, but compared to like the top selling stuff out there, it's way harder. So
I actually never thought about that, but you're right.
Yeah. And again, like I love Hard Boiled Cop and Dolphin. Like the fact that we have a dolphin character like this in Jump is so it's so Jump. But I think a lot of people just unfortunately didn't like the fact that like everything at the beginning was just so episodic and like disjointed, rather than when they finally started kicking things into gear with the actual plot. So I think that's really what the problem was. But like, at least from what we've seen recently, it's been good, but I don't think this is going to prompt them to keep it much longer than another 10 chapters. And with that in mind, there's almost no way that it's going to get an anime. Because if Hungry Marie didn't get one, I doubt that Hard Boiled Cop and Dolphin is going to get one. Even though I'm pretty sure Hard Boiled Cop and Dolphin still did better than Hungry Marie.
Which, by the way, I still like Hungry Marie. I still think it's, in terms of comedy, I still think it's decent.
I was not a fan. I wasn't. It just did not appeal enough to me.
I get that. I just think I really like Tamura's style of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So I got something out of Hungry Marie. And I got something out of Hardboiled Cop and Dolphin in early chapters as well. But I do have to admit that after that, once the plot gets going, it does get better. And one of the things that it's heartbroken to me is that I think Hardboiled Cop and Dolphin could be Tamura's best if given the chance.
Oh, I agree 100%. But it just did not get that opportunity just because it did not connect with fans right away.
Afterwards, we have... I think we have different opinions on what we think this one's going to go. And it's Magu-Chan, God of Destruction. So I kind of wanted to hear your opinion first.
So I love Magu-Chan. It is adorable. I love it every single week. But I do think it's showing signs of potentially ending as well in another 10 chapters. I could be very wrong in this regard, but while the original sales of Magu-Chan were alright, it's definitely been slipping with subsequent volumes. So I don't think it's getting the growth that Shounen Jump necessarily wants. Don't get me wrong, it's been getting several color pages to try and promote it and whatnot, but I don't know that it has legs to keep going for that long. And other than, you know, the goofy charm and like adorableness that it has, the art is basic. So like, again, I love Magu-Chan, but I think that it's not gonna get that big, and I think that it will, as sad as this is to say, it's definitely an axe candidate for the next round in like 10 weeks.
Okay, so I don't think it's going to be a titles either, just because of the nature of Magu-Chan. You know, it's a gag comedy. It has some elements that have been appeared in the last couple chapters that it does seem to have a little bit more of a serious story, but not too much. It always like pulls back at the end, which I like because it stays true to the awesomeness, which is the main point.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it's gonna stay in the magazine for at least a little while. Again, the magazine has been promoting it, which shows that they at least like Magu-Chan. The sales aren't the best, but they aren't being bad either. So I think Magu-Chan is gonna stay for a little while. And maybe if it doesn't grow, I think, yeah, then they'll consider axing it. But I think it's going to stay. Because there's always going to be series that are going to do worse than Magu-Chan. Because, okay, now we have Build King and Phantom Seer. Phantom Seer wasn't doing worse than Magu-Chan, I think, but whatever. And then we may have Hardball Cop and High School Family. I think High School Family is probably a bigger contender to go away. And then of this new batch, it seems that ITLC 9 Dragons Ball Parade isn't doing that well either. We'll see. But it does seem like there's always a manga that's doing worse. So I think Magu-Chan is gonna stay safe for a little while. Oh, yeah, that's my opinion.
And I think that's fair. I guess if I were to make a direct comparison, I would probably put it in the same kind of category as Mitama Security, though. Where it's just kind of like, it's there, people like, some people like it, the sales aren't great, but like at some point I feel like that the strings holding it up are gonna break, and that they're gonna be like, can we really keep going with this when it's not improving? And again, I love Magu-Chan, I really do. I don't want to see it end, but I could see it being one of the ones that gets canceled just because they want to give other series a chance and it's not growing. It's very stagnant.
I get that. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And for less of the batch, me and Roboco. And the thing that I saw a lot of people comparing the sales of me and Roboco with Phantom Seer recently,
my god.
because Phantom Seer got axed.
Uh-huh.
And of course, Roboco is not doing, in terms of sales, as good as Phantom Seer was. I don't think it needs to do. I don't think Jump expects it to do.
No.
And I think Roboco it's here to stay. Honestly.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely. Roboco is definitely here to stay, and for multiple reasons. If you want a direct comparison, Roboco is definitely a kind of modern day Doraemon, which, funnily enough, they had a chapter that more or less made Roboco a Doraemon, with time travel elements.
Yeah, everything in Roboco is very Doraemon. I mean, this is me speaking like I grew up with Doraemon. There's so much in it.
Yep.
It's really nice to see.
Yep. But that being said, at the end of the day, Roboco is a marketing juggernaut. And this some people might be hearing this and be like, this guy's nuts. Roboco, a marketing juggernaut? And yes, hear me out on this. The fact of the matter is, when you are a reference-making gag manga, and you are able to make as many references as you can and whatnot, that allows for so much cross-promotion that people really, really like. The fact that you had me and Roboco doing collaborations with The Promised Neverland. The fact that to promote Volume 2 of me and Roboco, they made a parody of the first ending of Jujutsu Kaisen with hilarious nods to Jujutsu Kaisen, although some people might have been very salty at the references that were made in that parody ending. The fact of the matter is, Roboco is able to cross-promote itself with other series, and that is good. The fact of the matter, too, that the fact that they're able to cross-reference like other older Jump series, too, is really great. And it gets people interested in thinking like, oh, this is from such and such series. I haven't read or watched this in, the longest time. Maybe I'll take this opportunity to do so. It does that consistently. And yes, not every chapter of Roboco hits. There was one chapter in particular that I just hated, with the really famous kid who came back to the manga and was really obsessed with the main character and was rubbing his face against his cowlick and just drooling over him. But
that's a very recent one. That's
it
like
was
2 chapters ago. Yeah, I remember.
But that being said, like, other than that, Roboco, it has that charm of a gag series, and like, compared to High School Family, Roboco is definitely going to stay, again, because of all the points that I mentioned so far. And if it does stick around long enough, it's going to get an anime. It's going to get one. Like, there's no question to me.
I'm a bit afraid of Roboco anime because I'm not sure if they get to do as many references as the manga can, which can be detrimental to the anime. But I guess we'll see if that does happen.
I mean, I guess it would depend. I would imagine that they would still get to do most of them, especially since the vast majority of references are Jump references, and Shueisha owns the rights to those. But yeah, I guess we would have to see. But I don't think it would lose the charm that it has, even if they had to make certain cuts. So I think it would be fine. I think you would have it where most episodes are split up into like 2 or 3 chapters per, and just splitting up the episode. But
like Doraemon did.
Yeah. Or even like as another example in a different genre, Horimiya did. Like, with certain episodes, it covered different chapters, but more or less split up the episode.
Yeah. I mean, they could do what Gintama does and do anime exclusive jokes, because it's a manga that is perfectly to do that. It can break the fourth wall all the time, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the things that I like about Roboko, and specifically the character of Roboko, and I guess of others in the manga as well, is that it feels like it's a celebration of Jump and the readers of Jump. It does feel like, okay, I'm reading, because I don't think it is the case with Western people that much, but there are way more people in Japan that do this, what we do, which is basically read everything in Jump and do it for years, than it is in the West. So definitely reaching a chapter in which you have a Jump reader as the main character who's talking to you, the reader, about like other series, like, oh, Black Clover was really cool this week, something. I think that's really good. I think that really helps connect with the Jump reader, the Japanese Jump reader at least, which is what they want.
Yep. Absolutely. And it really is so easy to read all of Jump in Japan when you consider the fact that, like, you can get Weekly Shonen Jump for like $3.
Yeah. And
like,
it's a book.
Yeah.
It's different to us because it's digital, so we get to pick whatever chapter we want, and we don't feel the need to read the others. But if you have it on a book, you're more likely to read everything, I think.
Right.
So the next one, we're gonna skip Burn the Witch, which is on this list, but
I mean, that's already doing very well, so not much to say there.
Exactly, and we don't know when the second season is gonna come out. We don't know how many chapters the second season is gonna go for, so I don't think it's really worth talking about for this video. And the next one, actually, this list that I have only has the ongoings. I think the next one would be Phantom Seer, which got canceled this week.
Yep. So that one's pretty dead in the water, as sad as it is to say. Anime that went, or manga that only went for like 20 some chapters. It is incredibly rare for them to get an anime adaptation. Incredibly rare.
It's not gonna get. The thing we have to take into mind is that the few Jump manga that are that short that have anime adaptations are manga that are supposed to just run for that long. So,
like Level E.
For example, Level E. There was one I talked about in a video and I forgot. I did a whole video about it. Atsukai Limited, which is a Echiharo manga, lasted for 30 chapters at an anime, but it was supposed to last 30 chapters. Burn the Witch is another example. It was supposed to last 4 chapters. A manga that is axed is never gonna get an anime. Just simple. And Phantom Seer was X. I mean, there's a lot of theories, because it is kind of weird that they give it a page extension and the sales were doing well, but at the bottom of it was X'd.
Yep. It was. And at the end of the day, like, none of us are magazine editors. None of us are. So we can't make those calls about the series. Like, it's not up to us, and like, unfortunately, like, I guess there wasn't enough of an appeal on the Japanese side of things for them to continue it. And like, while yes, we do get Phantom Seer and all these other Jump titles in the West through Manga Plus or the Viz Shonen Jump app, unless you're actually using those apps to read them, you are not contributing to the success of a given series at the end of the day. That's the thing. Like, if you're not using these apps, like, they're not getting any kind of data and whatnot of that. And the fact of the matter is, Jump Plus is free If you are caught up on one of these series, you can read the latest chapter for free. It might not have the same weight as like the people actually buying physical volumes or using the service in Japan, but it has some weight. But if you don't do anything, you're not contributing to it, so you don't get to make a comment about like, oh, well, I really liked Phantom Seer and Phantom Seer got canceled. Great, if you didn't read it on one of those platforms, you contributed to that. But even then, again, we don't know if there were other extenuating circumstances behind it ending. We don't. So
I just wanted to address again the Phantom Seer versus Roboko sales number. Like I was doing random maths in my head, but let's say that 80% of Jump reads battle shonens. Let's say that 30% of Jump reads gag manga. If Roboko is appealing to those 30%, but Phantom Seer is only appealing to 40% of the 80% that reads Jump, even if Phantom Seer is doing better, it makes more sense to axe Phantom Seer in favor of other battle shonens than it does to axe Roboko. And people need to understand that Jump is not supposed, nor do they want to have 20 battle shonens. Because they want to appeal to gag fans, they want to appeal to sports fans, they want to appeal to rom-com fans. Even if they aren't the majority of the manga, of the readers, they're still a bulk that they don't want to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's it. That's my minor rant.
Yeah. No. It is what it is. And like I said, people are, expressing these opinions and whatnot, and at the end of the day, you are not magazine editors. They had to have had, a crazy amount of, information and whatnot to go into making this decision. And I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision, but it was a decision that was made, and that's just how we have to go. That's just how it is.
Exactly. So yeah, the next one is High School Family, Kokosei Kazoku, which I don't know. Kokosei Kazoku means high school family. I actually don't know.
I believe it does. I think it's just the same thing essentially twice.
Okay. Yeah, I think this one. I like this one. Especially, I read the last chapter of this one about like 2 hours ago. It was really awesome. I really liked it. But it's not. I don't think it's gonna last much longer.
No. It's probably not. My thing with High School Family is this. I enjoy anything that involves the dad. I don't care for the rest of the family. Pretty much plain and simple. I think it's very possible that this manga could have been a lot better had it just been the dad and son going to high school together rather than the whole family.
It was overkill.
But that is my opinion, and I might be in the minority. But I mean, that being said, if you read High School Family, you are already in a minority for reading High School Family. So, I don't know. This is another one that could definitely get canceled at any given time, in all honesty. They've got Roboco, they've got other series that are gag adjacent, so they don't necessarily need to have two series that are full-on gag series running in the magazine. So it's very possible that in the next round of cuts, we'll see Dolphin get canceled, and we'll see High School Family get canceled. If not, Magu-Chan as well, in all honesty. But like it doesn't have a whole lot of it doesn't have a lot of ground to stand on moving forward. I enjoy it here and there, but it's not consistent. So
yeah,
mm-hmm.
Gotcha, and I agree, honestly. I don't think there's much more to say about it.
No, there really is.
So the next batch is Build King and Sakamoto Dates, and we already know Build King is gonna get canceled. Do you want to kick it in
Hallelujah.
the balls one last time?
Yes. Build King is terrible. It took the one good thing that it had and absolutely ruined it. And if you want a better series by the same author, read Toriko, because it's the better series that got copy and pasted into Build King rather than letting Build King be its own thing. So read Toriko or watch Toriko, because guess what? Toriko got an anime and Build King will never get one.
I feel like I need to say something, because at my very first video, or my second video, I actually rated the first 2-3 chapters of Build King an 8 out of 10. And I still kind of think that Build King, and I've never read Toriko, so maybe after I read Toriko, I look at Build King completely differently.
Oh, you
But
will.
I still think I probably will. I still think it's to a certain degree, it's a nice callback to 90s battle shonens, and those manga that were kind of like Dragon Quest based, and I kind of like that. But I don't think Build King overall was that good, and I feel like as it went on, it kind of got worse.
Oh, it
And
did. Absolutely.
So yeah, what didn't get worse was Sakamoto Days.
Yeah.
I kind of want to say, and this is a bold prediction, because the manga is what, 20 chapters into. I think
19.
Sakamoto,
Or no, sorry,
19.
18, and it'll be 19 this upcoming week.
Mhm.
From when we're recording this right now.
Yeah, because this manga is blowing up, and it's doing the best this month. The first volume came out, and it's doing better than all of the other rookies so far. And I honestly think this one, if given time, if it keeps up with the quality that it has right now, once it gets an anime, this is the one that it can reach those numbers. Because
absolutely.
it's just that good.
Yep.
And if you're not reading Sakamoto Days, read Sakamoto Days. I mean,
Please.
I fell in love with it from chapter 1. Like the paneling of it, it's so good. Like, the
Sakamoto
characters-
Days has some of the best choreography and paneling in all of Shonen Jump right now. Period. Like the fight scenes and how they're all done is impeccable. In Sakamoto Days has had some of the best double page spreads of any manga. Now, I do realize that there are some people that are like, oh, I don't necessarily like the art style of Sakamoto Days as much.
It took me a while to get used to the cell.
Right. It is definitely on the plainer side compared to other ones that are out there. And it definitely could grow as time goes on, but it's great. It really is. And like it hits on so many different levels as well. Especially for me. The fact that it is, still very heavily gag based as well. I mean, the premise that you have an assassin that became chubby after getting married, having a kid, and starting to run a convenience store is still at the top of his game, is great. The cast is very enjoyable. Even with the last guy that just got introduced, who was a sniper, was like such a shockingly interesting character that got introduced. You have this great dynamic with Sakamoto and his family, as well as his employees. And then you also have like one of the more quote-unquote interesting power-ups in Jump right now.
He loses the mustache. I still don't get that.
I don't either, but it's funny regardless.
Yeah. I mean, and to mention the art style, even if the art style is kind of plain, we do need to give it props, because when it needs to convey movement, it does it really, really well.
Yes, it really does.
You can feel every punch, every kick, every jump in that. That's why the choreography is so great. It's because it does have this sense of movement that's just fantastic.
Absolutely.
So I think if he gets the chance to improve the art, because a lot of artists are not that good. If you go compare go check Reborn chapter 1 and then go check Reborn chapter 400 something. Just, it's completely different. And if Sakamoto Days gets to last that, I'm not going to say that long, but if it lasts a decent amount of time, we can get that art style that is just perfect.
I think if it's done right, Sakamoto Days will be a 200 chapter series. I think.
Yeah, I can see lasting that long.
But I think that like it is definitely showing the most promise out of any of the rookie series that are under 20 chapters, hands down. And Jump definitely has some. They definitely have some. What's the word I'm looking for? Wow, I am blanking on the word. They definitely believe in it, like given the fact that like it has been getting color pages as well. Like the last issue had a color page for Sakamoto Days, which was great. It was a great color page. It was cute and I loved it. But yeah, this was the series that came out in the shadow of Build King, and then just punched Build King in the face repeatedly with just how absolutely superior it was, coming from a less seasoned mangaka compared to Toriko's. So
I think this is his debut, right? He had a one shot, but
he did. His one shot was, oh my god, his one shot is so dark, but so great.
I need to read it.
I love it. So yeah, if you're not reading Sakamoto Days already, do it, please.
Do it.
It is amazing. It really is good.
And another manga that is really doing well is The Elusive Samurai.
Yes.
Which I read on Twitter earlier today that it's doing, in terms of the table of contents placement, it's doing the best that's been since My Hero Academia. Of course, we don't have a volume out, and it's by Yusei Matsui, so, people... I'm sure Jump trusts Matsui to give him color pages and to give him, high talks, because this is a mangaka that has had 2 best-selling manga of their time. Because even if Nero right now doesn't compare to what manga are doing right now, at the time when it was being released, it was one of the best-selling manga of the time, and Assassination Classroom was, of course, one of the best manga when it was running as well, and it did like 20 million sales. So they trust Matsui, and I think a lot of manga fans trust Matsui. I personally trust him. It's one of my favorite mangaka. So I think it's gonna do well. Is it gonna, like, saying that it's the best since My Hero Academia? It's not saying that I think it's gonna be the next My Hero Academia. I don't think it's that kind of manga. But I think it has the potential to be the next Assassination Classroom, to do as well as this previous manga did.
Yep. What is going to determine the level of success for Elusive Samurai is how well it can use elements of history to make the series more interesting. Because the fact that it is making a historical fiction, you're essentially playing bumper bowling, where you can only do so much stuff within the confines of your lane. But so far, Matsui is going right down the middle and doing very well so far. But moving forward, it's only going to be more interesting depending on what elements of history that he can incorporate into it. Especially if there are going to be more elements of battle shonen. The more recent chapter with the Parithian Shot, the fact that it is based off of one of the Iranian empires from like 247 BC to like 227 AD, that's really cool. That's a completely out of left field thing for a series that is set in 1300 AD Japan. So if they can incorporate more things into other techniques, it's going to be really cool, and I think that can elevate it further. But that's also going to determine how well the series can be overall. Just because at least I will say the only downside to Elusive Samurai so far is that other than like our protagonist, a lot of characters are very one note so far, and there hasn't been a lot of depth given to them. Now that being said, we're only like 10, 11 chapters in, so it's not like there's a whole lot to go off of yet, and Matsui is very good at drawing out characters. So it's still a little early to see, but I'm thinking positive.
Yeah, I feel like that's a little bit of what happened with Assassination Classroom as well. With like especially in Assassination Classroom, where you got like 20 characters in the first chapter.
Yep.
And you didn't like most of them were just kind of like there, and by the end of the manga, you knew every one of them.
For the most part, there were still ones that were kind of like there, and they added other more interesting characters along the way, but
that's to be expected.
Yep. But like it did keep a fairly decent balance, and yes, there were things that you learned about for everybody. With this, like, he's got, at least so far, a much smaller group, so there's definitely more room for character advancement, and that is definitely what I'm hoping for. But the color pages have been great so far, so I mean, like, Matsui's art, this is definitely the best art that he's had in his entire run in Shonen Jump, so that is definitely also really helping it in its case right now. Definitely helping.
And Matsui is one that started with one of the worst art styles I've seen, and he just improved so much in 15 years, which is a whole lot of time, to be honest, but
yep.
I'm really proud of Matsui. The rest of the batch, we were talking about this batch, it's very much, it's too early for us to making any conclusive conversations about this manga. This is very much...
I disagree on one.
No?
I think on one we can be conclusive about. And that's ITLC. I think ITLC is doomed.
Interesting. I saw that the table of contents...
it's at the bottom.
Pretty badly, yeah. I haven't read this chapter, this week's chapter yet. I will after. But I will say that the last two before that seemed weirdly conclusive. Which is kind of weird because
it's just steamrolling through things. I think that's the problem, is that like it's just introducing too many things, moving certain stuff way too fast. It's I don't I think it's showing too many cards way too early. Like the most recent chapter was fine, but I don't think that it can save itself, in all honesty. Out of the 4 that were introduced, I'm not confident in ITLC. And if I'm being honest, if Jump were to decide to bring in 4 new series in the next batch rather than 3, ITLC could definitely be one of the axed series. It definitely could.
I can see that. And the thing about it is that out of all the 4 manga of the batch, I feel like ITLC was the more gimmicky one, was the one that needed more for the gimmick itself to really be well executed.
Right.
I mean, the Elusive Samurai kinda as well, but again, Matsui has proven himself that he knows how to do weird stuff, so...
I don't even necessarily think that is more gimmicky, though, because, I mean, again, he's doing historical fiction. With Witch Watch, it's a rom-com with magic elements, and then with Kowloon's Ball Parade, it's baseball.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, it just...
ITLC needed... It was a risk, and it didn't pay off, I think.
No, I don't think it did.
So yeah. Witch Watch, I think, is going to do well. I've been liking it so far. And, you know, it's by Kentashi Nohara, which did Scat Dance and did
Ad Astra, Lost in Space. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Which I've read Astra. I haven't read Scat Dance. It's one of the next manga that I'm gonna read for sure. and everything that he does seems to be pretty good so far. So
I will say, like, it's pretty tame, if anything, so far. I think that it can definitely improve more, especially if what we're seeing is going to show that there's going to be a more or less reverse harem situation. So, yeah, which I definitely was not expecting. But which just goes to show that, yeah, I think Witch Watch definitely has legs to stand on. I do want to speak on Kowloon's Ball Parade really quick too. I think Kowloon's Ball Parade is walking a very tricky tightrope right now. Because compared to like other sports series where you already have a team at the very beginning, they are building it from the ground up. And
I like that. I personally like that more.
I do like it, but the reason why I say it's a tricky tightrope is because if even one of those characters is not done well or it's not interesting enough, it can topple everything. Since they're building it like that. Again, compared to any other team setting where like there's already a team, they're already playing and whatnot, and they managed to make it work in that they are about to play an actual game of baseball right now. Again, like similar to like the first chapter. So we're finally getting to see the sports action again, but if the characters that they keep introducing aren't interesting enough, that will lead to its downfall. And I don't think it's there. I don't think it's problematic yet. But that is a potential pitfall that it could experience.
Mm-hmm. I understand. I wanted to say about sports section. I think we kind of get that for most chapters. If we compare, which is at the same time fair and unfair comparison, but if you compare it to like Rookies, which is another baseball manga that we both just read about building up a team, not necessarily from scratch, but going to each character and making each character like baseball and joining baseball again. And each of them has their problems. It's similar, it's handled completely different, but it is a bit similar. With Rookies...
I will say, at least with Rookies, though, like, technically, and I mean this is me cheating technically, but Rookies is still more of a overall a school life series over the baseball element. Like, yes, it focuses in more on the baseball as the series goes on, but it definitely starts out a lot more heavily on the school life delinquent side of things.
Sure, and that's what I was gonna say, that it takes quite a while to reach any baseball at all. Where in Nine Dragons Ball Parade, we have a game in the first episode or chapter. We have a play in like the third chapter, and then we're gonna have a new game. They always have little bits of, even if it's not full games, they have little bits of baseball action sprinkled throughout, so that baseball fans don't get too long without that sports element. With that said, we have something called the Spokon Curse, which is the fact that pretty much any recent sports manga after IQ has been cancelled, with the exception of the sumo one. Nanimaru Sumo? I think that's the name.
Yes. Hinomaru Sumo was the other big sports title that was in Jump, along with Haikyuu, and ended before Haikyuu did, but was still successful enough. It wasn't anything crazy, but it did get an anime, and the manga itself did run for a good amount of time. But yeah, anything outside of them has not done well whatsoever. Like the only one that made it even like far enough was like Robot X Laser Beam, but even then that only lasted for a little over a year. And I think that was more so because they were trying to give the mangaka, more room, since he previously made Kuroko no Basket, which was way more successful.
Yeah. But the thing is, they had IQ. They don't have IQ now.
Correct.
They don't have anything sports related. So, I feel like Jump needs Ball Parade to succeed. Of course, we're gonna have a sports manga, a rom-com sports manga next week.
Yep, Blue Box is sports and rom-com in one.
I feel like just from the promotion art, the genres. I feel like I'm gonna love Blue Box.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things from people that read the one shot, so it should be good.
Yeah, same. So I expectations. But yeah, they need a new sports manga. They need it fast.
Yep.
So I think Pulse Parade is gonna stay in the magazine at least for a little while to see how it does. So I don't think it's gonna get X anytime soon, even if it does kind of poorly. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's it. We have 2 more coming up next. Again, Blue Box next week, and Hamino Foro the week after. I don't know if we have anything revealed about that one.
Other than like a picture of like a black-haired girl, like I haven't heard anything yet. We'll probably get more information from this week's Jump about what's going to happen next week with it. But yeah, I will definitely cover it eventually.
Mm-hmm. I'll be reading those as well, and probably doing a video about them once I'm in a 4 weeks. So yeah, that's current Jump. It's a weird time.
Yeah, it really is.
So the ones that we think are gonna be big are Yazakura, Mashal, Undead Unluck, and Sakamoto Days, I think, and Roboko. Not sure.
Not necessarily huge, at least, but like these are all ones that were pretty. I mean, I'm definitely confident that all of them are going to get an anime at the very least and stick around. For sure.
Just wanted to give one last shout out to my Discord channel, because I made one and I forgot to announce it on all my other videos. And you have one as well, so.
I do, and I forget to promote it more often, but it's okay. I like having a small Discord server at the same time.
Yeah. And well, if by any chance you're at minute 1 hour and 30, 1 hour and 40, if you're here and you haven't subscribed or haven't checked Axelablaze channel, you should. We are trying to get him to 2 million. 2 million? No. Well, 2 million.
I mean, I wouldn't complain, but
2,000 subscribers by the end of the month. 2 million subscribers, we can reach that goal.
God, dear God, 2 million would be absolutely crazy. But yeah, trying to reach 2,000 by the end of the month. Trying. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Not sure if you want to say anything else to conclude.
Build King sucks. Glad it's dead. Staying on brand.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you watch this till here, thank you very much, and I'll see you next video.